Look from the Utah Senate Judiciary, where Paris Hilton is testifying. We have a live report coming out of Utah, but we will play that out a little bit later tonight so we can show you all of her testimony. Very, very strong, powerful words right there. But I want to bring in now Fox 13's Brian Schnee. He is live at Millcreek Canyon, just outside of Salt Lake City, where just this weekend an avalanche is to blame for 4 deaths, 4 skiers, and 4 rescues as well. Brian, can you give us the latest here?
Well, Daytona, just absolutely devastating news out of Millcreek Canyon. We're just east of Salt Lake City. To put it into some context, it's in between some of those bigger, more well-known areas, Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, where a lot of the ski resorts are here that get lots of snow in the state of Utah. Now, people were hiking into this area to taste some of the backcountry powder. We got lots of snow here in the last couple of weeks. You can't see it right behind me, but further up the canyon, 1, 2, 3 feet of snow in Utah's backcountry. There were a total of 8 skiers caught in this slide. 4 of them ultimately died from this avalanche. 4 were able to dig themselves out and also dug out those and tried to revive those that were caught in this slide. It happened just before noon on Saturday. Now, the Utah Avalanche Center is still working on their report, their final report. They treat it almost like a law enforcement investigation. So they interview witnesses, those survivors, and they try to figure out how all of this happened. It's not a surprise here to those with the Utah Avalanche Center that avalanches are taking place. They've been getting lots of observations each day over the past month or two. They've been calling the snowpack really a house of cards, just extremely unstable based on the lack of snow that we got here in the state to start the season, and then some of those storms that ultimately piled up. But to your note, just absolutely devastating. 6 deaths from avalanches here in the state of Utah within the last month, and still a lot of information to come forward here in regards to the Wilson Glade avalanche that took place over the weekend.
And I know that some of those victims' names have not been released at this point in time, but do we know any more about the backgrounds of these people?
We do, and we've been hearing from friends and family, co-workers today, all 4 of them in their 20s, 2 women, 2 men, all from Salt Lake County. We know that it's a mixture of people that just love to get out in the backcountry. We know that one is a healthcare worker. I spoke to her co-worker earlier today. She was in the neurocritical care unit as a nurse in the University of Utah healthcare system and had been there for a few years. And they were just saying that her name is Stephanie Hopkins, absolutely loved the outdoors, was considered more than a healthcare hero. That's just one of the lives lost in this avalanche. What we don't know is the name of really any of these survivors. We've been able to learn a lot about the victims in just a short amount of time. We do know that a lot of them have strong ties to the area. A lot of them are very experienced backcountry skiers. A lot of times when people hear backcountry, they hear, oh, maybe they were unprepared. All 8 of these skiers had avalanche gear and beacons. Mother Nature just did not treat them during this slide in the right way. So we do know a little bit more about the victims, and we are learning more each hour virtually.
And Brian, how common is this to see these types of avalanches? You're just talking about how experienced all of these skiers and hikers were. Do you see this during this winter season typically?
Well, with the current weather conditions, avalanches have been happening every day, whether they're remotely triggered from a distance by noise from a snowmobiler, a skier, a snowboarder, or maybe they're naturally occurring because of that unstable snowpack that we alluded to. But the Utah Avalanche Center has been seeing countless observations for avalanches. Over the course of the weekend, anywhere between 30, 40, 50 slides in certain portions of the state. High avalanche danger has been of concern really in northern Utah and parts of southeast Utah for weeks now because of that unstable snowpack. And what that really means is just the varied conditions that we've seen here in the state. Some really warm weather, and then we got dumped on with snow from anywhere between 1 to 2 feet of snow in a certain storm. So the avalanches, to your point, have become more common and more common. Millcreek Canyon, however, not one of those places that had seen a lot of those avalanche observations from people out in the backcountry throughout the course of the season. The 2 fatalities that took place before this one happened up near Park City Mountain Resort on either side of the resort boundary, ultimately causing Park City Mountain Resort to close backcountry exit gates. So yes, avalanches this year, specifically in the turn of the new year into 2021 in the month of January, and now into early February, have been extremely common here across the state.
And last question for you, Brian. What's next in this investigation that you'll be looking for?
I'll be looking ultimately for the route of where this slide took place. When you look at some of the pictures from this slide, it is absolutely enormous. They thought at least 500 feet wide. It's now even estimated towards 1,000 feet wide. I mean, just think about the magnitude when you're looking from an aerial photo of just how wide and how fast these avalanches can pick up speed. We were talking to the Utah Avalanche Center last week. I mean, ultimately, this snow can pick up speeds anywhere from 60 to 80 miles an hour. That will catch someone underneath, take them downhill, and that's where we typically have seen some of the burials. So those conditions alone are just unsettling. Where we will be looking for is to see what is next in terms of the investigation from the Utah Avalanche Center. It doesn't mean in terms of criminal that there's any criminal charges filed or anything like that, but really this will give us an indication of what the snowpack was like. They were already calling for very high avalanche dangers that day, so they knew something like this could happen. And really, this is where we turn to the experts to learn even more about how the snow is impacting the backcountry this year and ultimately what we will see moving forward for the next few months.
Fox 13's Brian Schnee out there. We appreciate you giving us the very latest. And you mentioned the Utah Avalanche Center will be speaking tonight with Mark Staples. He's one of those experts, so we'll get a little more of a glimpse into what those avalanches are looking like. Stay safe out there and stay warm.
Daytona, nice to speak with you.
And here on News Now from Fox, we want to bring you all of these events in their entirety. So we're going to head back out to that hearing that Paris Hilton was just speaking at. We haven't heard or seen Paris Hilton apart from usually entertainment stories, but they're talking about an election.